My son left me at a travel center in New Mexico with one canvas bag and a text telling me to find my own ride. The luxury Motorcoach disappearing toward the highway had cost me $21,800 to rent. Tyler was driving. His wife, Bianca, was filming from the passenger seat. Through the rear window, I saw my granddaughter Sophie turn around and press both hands against the glass. Then my phone vibrated. "Find your own ride to Sedona. Maybe you'll be easier to be around by dinner." The trip had been Tyler's idea. He said we were completing the route his mother had marked before she died. I had paid for the vehicle, the fuel, 3 rooms at the hotel, and the birthday dinner waiting at the end. But after 3 days of being told not to film while driving, not to let unauthorized people take the wheel, and not to turn his mother's memory into an advertisement, my son decided I was the baggage he could leave behind. Inside my canvas bag was June's old road atlas. On the first page, in her handwriting, were 7 words. "No one gets left beside the road." I watched the Motorcoach disappear. Then I opened the rental app, not to stop a moving vehicle, but to remind my son, whose name was still on the contract. 2 years earlier, June had died before we could finish the route she had drawn in blue ink from Colorado, through Santa Fe and the petrified forest to Sedona. For most of our marriage, road trips meant paper cups of coffee, a cooler behind the seat, and June reading highway signs aloud even when I had already seen them. On my 70th birthday, Tyler placed her atlas on my kitchen table. "We'll finish Mom's route together," he said. All 3 generations. I should have noticed how quickly Bianca lifted her phone when I agreed. At the time, I thought she was recording a family moment. I did not know she had already given that moment a campaign name, 3 Generations on the Open Road. I signed the rental agreement with Summit Crown Motorcoaches. Tyler was added as the only additional driver. Bianca was not authorized to drive. Commercial production required separate approval. The vehicle had 7 belted seats, a fixed overnight limit, and a digital authorization system that Tyler watched me demonstrate at pickup. If I remove an additional driver, I told him, the vehicle keeps operating until it reaches a safe stop. Nothing interferes with a moving coach. Once it is parked and shut down, it cannot be restarted by that driver. Tyler laughed and held up both hands. "Dad, this is a vacation, not one of your fleet briefings." I had spent 32 years directing vehicle safety for a federal power company. I knew I sometimes spoke to family as if a clipboard were still in my hand. I also knew that a 40-foot Motorcoach did not become harmless because someone called the trip a vacation. The first morning felt close to what Tyler had promised. Sophie sat beside me with June's atlas open across our knees. She was 19, home from college, and old enough to recognize the routes her grandmother had marked, but young enough to ask why one diner had 3 stars drawn beside it. "Best peach pie in northern New Mexico," I told her. Grandma hated peach pie. "That is why the stars are crossed out." Sophie laughed. For 1 hour, I believed I had paid for exactly what Tyler had offered me. Then we stopped outside Pueblo, and 2 people I had never met climbed aboard carrying camera cases. Bianca introduced them as friends who would join us for a little content. Near Santa Fe, a photographer arrived with lighting equipment. At another stop, a woman wearing a travel brand badge asked Tyler when the sponsor vehicle would be visible in the footage. I looked at the removable Open Trail Living logo, now fixed beside the Motorcoach door. "Sponsor vehicle?" I asked. Bianca gave me the smooth smile she used whenever a question threatened her schedule. "Potential sponsor. We're documenting the family experience. It may help us secure a long-term partnership." "You told Summit Crown this was a private rental." "Because it is. We're a family. A few cameras don't change that." They did change it. June's route began bending around sunrise shots, brand meetings, and locations Bianca said performed better online. Drinks for the crew appeared on my card as trip refreshments. A portable light and an equipment case were charged as road supplies. One evening, more people slept aboard than the contract permitted. The worst moment came on the second afternoon. Bianca stood in the aisle filming Tyler while he drove through crosswinds. She leaned forward to frame his face and the highway together. "Sit down and secure yourself," I said. "I need 10 seconds. You need a seatbelt." Tyler told me to stop distracting him. An hour later, he asked Bianca to move the vehicle across a campground because he was on a call. I stepped outside and found her behind the wheel. "She is not listed on the contract," I said. Tyler ended his call and stared at me through the open door. "She moved it 200 feet. 200 feet in a vehicle she is not authorized to operate." "You are counting feet now." Every warning became proof in Tyler's mind that I wanted control. Every objection became another story. Bianca could tell her crew about the retired safety director who could not relax. At breakfast on the third day, I found a revised route on the table. They planned to skip one of June's marked roads so Bianca could meet a rental company representative in Sedona before dinner. "This was supposed to be her route," I said. Tyler folded the paper once and put it in his pocket. "Mom wanted us together. She would not care which highway we took. Then, why did you bring me her atlas?" He did not answer. Bianca asked the photographer whether the desert light would still be good by late afternoon. At Red Mesa Travel Center, she started filming again while Tyler approached the fuel lanes. She held the phone near his shoulder and asked him to repeat a line about 3 generations healing on the open road. "Stop filming the driver," I said. Bianca lowered the phone with an exaggerated sigh. "Malcolm, this is our last usable stretch before Sedona. Then film when the vehicle is parked." Tyler pulled into a space hard enough to rattle the cabinet doors. He turned in his seat. "You're ruining this trip for everyone. I am asking you to follow the agreement I signed. You have corrected the route, the schedule, the guests, the camera, the food, and the way I drive. You paid for the vehicle, Dad. That doesn't mean you get to control every mile. No, the contract controls the vehicle. I only happen to be the person who read it." His jaw tightened. I knew my tone had landed like an order. I also knew lowering my voice would not make Bianca an approved driver or turn commercial filming into a private family trip. I picked up my canvas bag. "I am going inside for water. We can speak when neither of us is performing for a camera." Bianca leaned toward Tyler. "If he wants space, give it to him. We are already behind schedule." Sophie stood. "I'll come with you, Grandpa." Tyler looked at her. "Sit down, Sophie. We are leaving in 5 minutes. She hesitated, then slowly returned to her seat. I wish I had told her to come anyway. Instead, I stepped down, believing my son was angry, not cruel. Inside, I bought 2 bottles of water and stood near the window until my hands stopped shaking. 7 minutes later, I walked back outside. The parking space was empty. At first, I thought Tyler had moved to the fuel pumps. Then I saw the Motorcoach at the edge of the property, its polished side flashing in the sun as it entered the highway. Sophie's face was in the rear window. Her hands rose to the glass. I called Tyler once. He declined the call. His message arrived seconds later: "Find your own ride to Sedona. Maybe you'll be easier to be around by dinner." I took a screenshot and sent a copy to my email. Then I checked what remained in my bag and pockets: wallet, medication, phone charger, June's atlas. The travel center was staffed, well lit, and busy. I was hurt, but I was not in immediate danger. That distinction mattered. So did another one. Tyler had been permitted to drive the Motorcoach. I was not going to call the police and falsely report it stolen because I was angry. But permission could be withdrawn, and the agreement gave the primary renter the authority to withdraw it. I opened the Summit Crown app. 2 names appeared on the screen. Primary renter, Malcolm Hayes. Additional driver, Tyler Hayes. My son had decided I no longer belonged on the trip. The contract had not reached the same conclusion. I pressed the support button in the rental app and asked for the contract operations desk. The first representative heard the strain in my voice and asked whether I wanted to report the motorcoach stolen. No, I said. My son was an approved additional driver when he left. I am revoking that authorization now. He retained the vehicle after abandoning the primary renter, and I no longer consent to his use of it. Those words were less dramatic than stolen. They were also true. The call transferred to Renee Patel, Summit Crown's operations director. She asked me to verify my license number, the security code on the agreement, and the last 4 digits of the payment card. Then she asked whether I was safe. I looked through the travel center windows at families moving between the restaurant and the fuel lanes. I have my wallet, medication, and phone. I am inside a staffed building. Is anyone in the vehicle in immediate danger? Not that I can see. My son is angry, but he is capable of driving. Rennie paused while keys clicked on her end. I can see Mr. Tyler Hayes listed as the additional driver. You are certain you want his authorization removed? Yes. Once removed, you cannot restore it through the app. Operations would have to review any new request. Remove it. She did not congratulate me or ask about the family argument. She treated it as a safety and contract decision, which was exactly what I needed. Renee explained that Summit Crown would send Tyler a written notice requiring him to proceed to the next safe service location, park, and surrender the coach to a recovery representative. The vehicle would not slow, lock its steering, or lose power while moving. We do not stop moving vehicles, she said. We prevent unauthorized operation from continuing after the vehicle reaches a safe location. I remembered Tyler watching that same demonstration at pickup. He knew what would happen. He was counting on me not to let it happen with Sophie aboard. Do it, I said. But please note that my granddaughter is in the vehicle. I want confirmation that they have stopped somewhere staffed before recovery begins. Renee added the request to the case. Then her voice changed slightly. Mr. Hayes, while reviewing the telemetry and reservation file, I found activity that requires clarification. The motorcoach had been rented for 7 registered travelers over the full route. Telematics and the pickup record showed more riders joining at several stops. A campground declaration showed overnight occupancy above the permitted number. The removable open trail living branding, visible on an exterior camera, had not been disclosed. Neither had the professional camera equipment logged by the depot attendant. There was more. The driver identification prompt had recorded Bianca operating the vehicle at the campground. She was not on the authorization list. I closed my eyes for 1 second. None of it surprised me. Hearing each choice described as a record instead of a family disagreement removed the excuses Tyler had wrapped around it. Was there an approved commercial use addendum? Renee asked. No. I was told this was a private family trip. I sent her photographs I had taken without thinking much about them. The open trail living panel beside the door, the camera cases in the aisle, and the revised route marked around content stops. I also forwarded Tyler's message. Renee asked whether I had authorized equipment, drinks, and production services to be charged to my payment card. I authorized fuel, meals, and normal trip expenses. I did not authorize commercial production. I opened my banking app while she read out the recent transactions. Several charges Bianca had described as group supplies came from a media rental vendor and a mobile production service. I froze the card against new purchases, then called the hotel in Sedona. I kept my suite. The other rooms were released from my payment profile, not canceled. Tyler and Bianca could still take them if they provided their own card. I was not going to answer abandonment with abandonment. I was simply ending their ability to convert every consequence into another expense for me. My phone rang before I finished the hotel call. Tyler. What did you do? He demanded. No apology. No question about whether I was safe. I revoked your authorization to drive the motorcoach. You cannot do that while we are on the highway. The vehicle is still operating. Summit Crown instructed you to stop at the next safe service location and surrender it. We are 35 miles from Canyon Star. I am not handing over a $21,000 rental because you got your feelings hurt. The rental price did not transfer ownership to you. Bianca spoke in the background. I heard my name. Then the words brand dinner. Tyler lowered his voice. Turn the authorization back on. We will pick you up after you cool down, or you can meet us in Sedona. We have people waiting. You drove away after I stepped inside for water. You needed space. Everyone needed space. Your message did not say you were coming back. Dad, do not make this bigger than it is. That sentence had followed me through years of small loans, unpaid family bookings, and promises that the next open trail contract would make Tyler independent. Whenever I noticed the cost, I was making it bigger. Whenever he needed my card, helping family was supposed to be simple. Pull into Canyon Star, I said. Follow the notice. You'll calm down before Sedona. The call ended. Renee phoned 8 minutes later. Tyler had acknowledged the electronic notice but had not replied. The system showed the Motorcoach continuing west at a normal speed. Recovery personnel were traveling to Canyon Star Service Plaza, the next location that could safely hold the coach and its passengers. I sat near the travel center window with June's atlas on my knees. On the first page, beneath her rule about leaving no one beside the road, she had once drawn a small crooked car. Tyler had been 9 when our station wagon broke down outside Flagstaff. I walked to a call box because there was no signal, but I left June and Tyler together with water, shade, and a clear promise that I was returning. June never meant that families could avoid every breakdown. She meant that no one should use another person's vulnerability as a chance to escape responsibility. A message from Sophie appeared. I'm sorry. I tried to come with you. Dad told me to sit down. I'm okay, I replied with only what she needed. I'm safe too. You are not responsible for this. Follow the staff's instructions when you stop. I did not ask her to send a location or record her parents. The rental company had telemetry. Tyler's message already proved intent. Sophie was my granddaughter, not my investigator. At Canyon Star, Tyler pulled beneath the wide service plaza canopy and stopped beside the diesel pumps. The later report showed that the location was brightly lit, with a restaurant, restrooms, telephones, rental counters, and transport service. He fueled the coach, moved it into a marked parking bay, and turned off the engine. When he pressed the start control again, the dashboard powered on, but the engine did not turn. The display showed an authorization notice and the number for Summit Crown operations. Tyler called me 3 times. I let the calls go unanswered. Then a message arrived. Enough. Turn it back on. We have Sophie with us. I sent one response. Sophie is at a staffed service plaza. Summit Crown is sending a representative. Cooperate with them. Renee confirmed that the vehicle had reached a safe stop before the no restart status became active. She also confirmed that no one had lost power on the road, no steering system had been touched, and no passenger was stranded without services. What Tyler lost was not safety. It was the ability to keep using someone else's property after permission had ended. By the time the recovery truck arrived, he had placed his luggage across the Motorcoach steps. He stood in front of the door while Bianca filmed from several feet away. Sophie remained near the service plaza entrance. The recovery agent introduced himself, showed company identification, and handed Tyler the revocation notice. Tyler did not read past the first paragraph. My father paid for it, he said. That makes it family property. The agent opened the rental agreement to the signature page. No, sir. It makes your father the renter. The recovery agent's sentence stayed with me while a black executive sedan crossed the distance between Sedona and Red Mesa to collect me. It makes your father the renter. Tyler had spent 3 days treating my signature as a credit card with no voice attached. The moment I used the responsibility that came with it, he called the vehicle family property. Simone Blake, the general manager of the Solara Grand, arranged the car after I explained that I still intended to use my suite. She did not send a limousine or a driver holding a sign. A clean sedan arrived with bottled water, a phone charger, and enough room for one canvas bag. Before leaving the travel center, I asked a manager to preserve the exterior camera footage under the case number Renee provided. It showed me entering alone and the motorcoach leaving 7 minutes later. I did not yet know whether anyone would need it. I had learned long ago that memory becomes an argument when a timestamp could have made it a fact. I placed June's atlas beside me in the car. The route to Sedona should have been familiar from the blue lines she had drawn. Instead, I watched the desert darken through tinted glass and thought about the first family breakdown that had inspired her rule. Tyler was 9. Our station wagon had lost a water pump on a lonely stretch outside Flagstaff. I could have walked toward the nearest call box alone, but June looked at the heat, looked at our son, and said, "We solve this as one family." So we waited until another driver stopped, and I went for help only after June and Tyler had shade, water, and company. A week later, she wrote, "No one gets left beside the road inside the Atlas." The sentence had never meant that everyone must occupy the same vehicle. It meant that inconvenience did not cancel obligation. Halfway to Sedona, Renee called with an update. Tyler had refused to remove the luggage from the doorway or release the keys. The recovery agent had shown his identification, the contract, the revocation notice, and Summit Crown's written demand for surrender. Tyler responded by calling the Motorcoach family property and warning that Open Trail Living would publish the incident. Because he continued blocking access, Summit Crown requested assistance from Highway Patrol. 2 officers arrived, reviewed the paperwork, and explained that they were there to keep order while the owner recovered its vehicle. They did not accuse Tyler of stealing it. They did not handcuff anyone. They told him that interfering with the recovery could create a separate problem. That was enough. Tyler stepped away from the door. Summit Crown's team inventoried every suitcase, camera case, and personal bag before unloading them beneath the Service Plaza canopy. The passengers were given time to check the list. The company then recovered the motorcoach. Everyone has access to food, phones, and local transportation, Renee said. Your granddaughter asked me to confirm that to you. My shoulders loosened for the first time since the coach disappeared. Thank you. Please send the incident report to my email when it is complete. There is one more issue. A prospective commercial partner was listed on the Open Trail production material recovered with the equipment. Because the vehicle carried their proposed campaign name, our compliance department notified the contact that the trip had been interrupted for an undisclosed commercial use breach. I did not recognize the name at first, Jordan Lee. Then I remembered the woman with the travel brand badge who had joined us near Santa Fe. Bianca had introduced her as a friend from the industry. She had never said Jordan was considering financing the campaign. Did Summit Crown send her details about our argument? I asked. No. Only that the vehicle could no longer be used in proposed sponsored content and that the commercial activity had not been authorized. That distinction mattered too. The rental company corrected its own involvement. It did not volunteer to punish my son. When I arrived at the Solara Grand, the red cliffs above Sedona were catching the last light. The lobby smelled faintly of cedar. A small sign near the dining room displayed the Open Trail Living logo beside the phrase, 3 generations on the open road. I stopped in front of it. The trip Tyler said was my birthday gift had a brand dinner, a presentation screen, and printed material waiting before I ever reached the hotel. Simone met me near reception. She was direct without being cold. Your suite remains secured under your card, she said. The 2 additional rooms have been released from your payment profile. They are still being held until 10 tonight. Your family may retain them with their own payment method, subject to availability after that. I do not want anyone sent away without an option. They will have options here, and at our sister property, they will simply need to pay for them. She also separated the private birthday dinner I had arranged from the Open Trail brand event Bianca had attached to it. My reservation covered one family table. The production team's audiovisual package, expanded guest count, and branded reception were no longer authorized against my card. I had not even known those charges existed. In my suite, I opened the transaction list. Equipment delivery. Branded welcome beverages, presentation support. Bianca had placed each expense where it could resemble part of my birthday weekend. I disputed nothing on the spot. Some services had already been delivered, and the hotel deserved a fair review. I only prevented new charges and asked Simone to prepare an itemized account. Then my phone rang. Jordan Lee was downstairs. She had contacted the hotel because my name appeared as the primary guest on the booking, and Summit Crown's notice had made the scheduled presentation impossible. Simone asked whether I wanted to speak with her privately before the dinner. I found Jordan in a quiet corner of the lobby with a laptop closed in front of her. Without the travel badge, she looked less like one of Bianca's friends and more like the risk director she turned out to be. "Mr. Hayes, I need to understand why the campaign vehicle was recovered," she said. "Bianca told our team that you became tired, chose to leave the trip, and planned to meet the family here." For a moment, the room seemed to narrow around that word, chose. I did not show Jordan every family message or ask her to end negotiations. I told her that Tyler had driven away while I was inside the travel center, that I remained the primary renter, and that I withdrew his driving authorization after he refused to return. I gave her Renee's case number and the written notice. I showed her Tyler's text once, then locked my phone. Jordan read it without changing expression. She compared its timestamp with the travel center record and Summit Crown's notice. "The grandfather chose to rest," she said quietly. That was the explanation in the revised campaign summary. I did not approve a campaign summary. I did not know there was a campaign until people began joining the trip. She opened her laptop then. Bianca's proposal had been submitted before Tyler placed June's atlas on my kitchen table. It described a widowed grandfather reconnecting with his family, while Open Trail living demonstrated safe, grateful, multi-generational travel. The proposed sponsorship was not a casual possibility. Jordan's company was considering a long-term agreement involving vehicles, production funding, and safety-centered family content. The Sedona dinner was supposed to be the final credibility meeting. "What do you want us to do?" Jordan asked. "Verify what I told you. Speak to Summit Crown. Review your own requirements. Then make your own decision. Bianca still intends to present tonight. Then I will answer any factual question you ask at the table. I will not turn my wife's memory into a public trial. But I will not sit beside my son while he sells a lie about why I am no longer in the vehicle." Jordan nodded once. Simone disabled the presentation screens until the booking dispute was resolved. The private dining room remained available, but the brand event no longer rested on my card or my silent participation. Sophie messaged that they had rented 2 cars and collected their luggage. She did not defend her parents, and I did not ask her to choose between us. Then Tyler sent another message: "Fix the rooms before we get there. Don't embarrass us in front of Jordan." I placed the phone beside June's atlas. He had left me beside the road and was still certain my job was to protect him from arriving late. Tyler entered the Solara Grand lobby 20 minutes after 8 with dust on his shoes and anger, carrying him several steps ahead of everyone else. Bianca followed with her phone in one hand and a garment bag in the other. 2 members of the Open Trail crew pulled suitcases behind them. Sophie came last. When she saw me seated beside June's atlas, relief crossed her face before she lowered her eyes. Tyler went directly to the reception desk. "We need the keys to all 3 rooms under Hayes." Simone remained standing beside the terminal. "Mr. Malcolm Hayes retained his own suite. The additional rooms are no longer attached to his payment profile. We can keep them for you if you provide a card. Tyler turned toward me. You cancelled our rooms? No. I stopped paying for them. The rooms are available. After you stranded us, I let the word settle before answering. You were at a staffed service plaza with food, phones, rental cars, and every piece of luggage returned to you. You were there because the owner asked you to surrender a vehicle you no longer had permission to drive. Bianca looked toward the private dining room. Can we handle this after the presentation? Jordan stepped out of the lounge with 2 members of her brand team. The presentation is on hold, she said. We need to resolve several factual conflicts first. That was the moment Bianca understood I had arrived before them. Her gaze moved from Jordan to the dark presentation screen, then to the atlas on the table. Tyler accused me of reporting the Motorcoach stolen. I opened Renee's written notice and handed him the first page. There was no theft report. I told Summit Crown that an approved driver had abandoned the primary renter, that permission was withdrawn, and that the vehicle had been retained after notice to surrender it. You used some remote switch to trap us. The coach continued normally until you chose a staffed plaza, parked and shut off the engine. You knew that was how the authorization system worked. I explained it at pickup. He had no answer for that, so he returned to the rooms. Simone offered the available rates and the number for a nearby sister property. Tyler finally placed his own card on the counter. No one was expelled. No one was left without transportation. The only thing removed was his certainty that my money would arrive before his consequences. Jordan moved the scheduled discussion to the small private dining room. The gathering was not a gala. It was one family, 3 brand representatives, Simone, and the Open Trail team who had been expecting to show edited footage about gratitude. The screen stayed dark. June's atlas rested beside my plate. Bianca began carefully. There was a family disagreement at Red Mesa. Malcolm chose to take some time alone and meet us here. The campaign still reflects 3 generations reconnecting after loss. Jordan looked at me. Did you choose to separate from the trip? I unlocked my phone and placed it in front of her. Tyler's message was already open. Find your own ride to Sedona. Maybe you'll be easier to be around by dinner. I did not send it to the crew or post it online. I showed it only to the people being asked to finance a story built around my presence. Bianca's shoulders tightened. That was written in anger. Tyler expected him to get a ride and meet us. Your revised summary says he chose to rest, Jordan replied. It does not say he was deliberately left while the campaign vehicle continued without him. Tyler pushed his chair back slightly. This has nothing to do with vehicle sponsorship. Jordan opened the compliance file Summit Crown had sent. She did not read every line. She named the issues that touched the proposed partnership: commercial filming without approval, an unauthorized driver, occupancy beyond the registered plan, and continued retention of the vehicle after driving permission had been revoked. We were considering a safety-centered family campaign, she said. We cannot sponsor a production that abandoned its primary guest, misrepresented why he left, and used a vehicle outside the disclosed terms. We are ending these negotiations. No one applauded. There was no satisfaction in watching 2 years of my son's ambition collapse into one quiet sentence. I had wanted Tyler to build something that no longer needed my money. I had not wanted him to build it from my money and June's memory while treating both as props. Bianca looked at me. You destroyed our business over one argument. I did not call Jordan, I said. Summit Crown notified a proposed partner because their vehicle appeared in commercial material connected to a contract breach. Jordan asked me what happened. I answered. You could have protected us. I did, for years. That is part of how we arrived here. Sophie spoke from the far end of the table. Grandpa didn't choose to leave. I tried to get out with him. Tyler turned sharply. Sophie, stay out of this. I raised one hand. Sophie is not responsible for proving what your message already proves. She did not speak again. She did not need to. The brand team gathered their documents and left. Simone removed the open trail reception charges from my active folio for review and gave Bianca a separate itemized account. When the door closed, Tyler remained across from me. "You paid for the Motorcoach," he said. "That did not make you the boss of the trip." "No. It made me responsible for what happened in the vehicle carrying my family. You ruined everything. You left me beside the road and kept driving toward a dinner I had paid for. Do not confuse the moment consequences caught you with the moment the damage began." He said I could have called and asked them to return. I did call once. You declined it. Then you sent me away by text. You knew we were going to Sedona, and you received a notice telling you to stop and surrender the vehicle. You replied that I would calm down before Sedona. His eyes moved toward the atlas. Mom would hate this. That hurt more than anything else he said that night. Your mother wrote that no one gets left beside the road. You taught me that some people will leave you there the moment they believe they no longer need what you provide. Tyler's face changed, but not into remorse. He was still searching for a version of the evening in which my boundary was the betrayal. "So this is it?" he asked. "You're cutting us off?" "I am ending the belief that abandoning me creates another bill I must pay to keep you close." I told him exactly what that meant. I would pay for my suite and the small birthday dinner I had originally reserved. I would not pay for his room, the recovery costs caused by the contract breaches, the commercial production expenses, or Open Trail's debts. Any charge already on my card would be reviewed against what I had actually authorized. I would not take Sophie's tuition assistance away because she had done nothing wrong. I would not seize Tyler's property or interfere with his company. I would close shared card access, vehicle privileges, and the investments he had come to treat as inevitable. "You treated me like baggage because you thought the trip could continue without me," I said. "The vehicle, the hotel, and the campaign all had the same problem. My name was the only thing holding them together." Tyler and Bianca left the room. They paid for one hotel room themselves and arranged their return trip the next morning. Sophie asked if she could stay for my birthday dinner. I told her she was welcome, but she did not owe me the choice. She stayed. We ate at the small table I had planned before Open Trail expanded it into a brand event. No cameras, no presentation. Simone brought a simple cake with one candle because 70 would have set off the smoke alarm. Sophie laughed, and for the first time that day, I did too. 3 months later, Summit Crown completed its review. Tyler and Bianca were responsible for the valid recovery and contract charges tied to their actions. We agreed on a documented repayment schedule for the portion that had first reached my card. The hotel separated the legitimate family costs from the production expenses, and Open Trail paid what it could. Without the proposed sponsorship, the company reduced its operation. Bianca continued making travel content on a smaller scale. Tyler took consulting work to meet the payments. Their careers did not disappear. The version built on effortless access to my money did. Tyler and I spoke twice during those 3 months. The calls were civil and short. I left an emotional path back to me, but no financial shortcut. Forgiveness, if it came, would have to travel without my credit card leading the way. Sophie kept visiting. In early autumn, she and I rented an ordinary car and completed the final section of June's route. There were no logos on the doors and no crew in the back seat. At a Sedona overlook, we opened the atlas across the hood. June's 7 words remained on the first page. No one gets left beside the road. Sophie traced the sentence with one finger. "Do you think Dad understood what Grandma meant?" I looked toward the red cliffs and the highway curving below them. Not yet. He thought it was a rule about transportation. Your grandmother meant it as a rule about love. Tyler believed leaving me behind would give him control of the trip. It only revealed how much of the journey rested on things he did not own: the vehicle, the rooms, the money, and the story he was selling. June and I never finished that route together. But standing beside Sophie in Sedona, I understood the promise in her atlas differently. No one should be left beside the road. And no one should be forced to keep paying for a place in a family that continues driving the moment he becomes inconvenient. If your own child deliberately left you at a rest stop and drove away in a vehicle you had paid for, would you have called them back and finished the trip together? Or was revoking the rental the first boundary they should have learned years earlier?